Jamal stood at the edge of the construction site just after sunrise. The sky was still cool with morning light, the kind of gray-blue that made steel frames look softer than they were. He parked his car at dusty 10-year-old Camry across the street. No logos on the side. No sign of status. He stepped out slowly. Khakis, a faded button-down shirt, tan boots with scuffed toes. In one hand, a rolled-up blueprint. In the other, a travel mug from some conference 5 years ago. He crossed the street and headed toward the chain-link fence gate. There were 3 men standing there. 2 in reflective vests, 1 with a clipboard. None of them looked up right away. When they finally did, the first reaction was confusion, then caution. "Deliveries on the west side," one of them said, not even checking the clipboard. "I'm not here for delivery," Jamal said calmly, adjusting the strap of his messenger bag. "I'm here to check site specs." The man with the clipboard narrowed his eyes. "Who sent you?" Jamal kept his voice level. "I'm the lead structural engineer on this build. Name's Jamal Carter." There was a pause, then laughter, short, doubtful. "Right," said the guy with the clipboard. "You got ID or something?" Jamal reached into his bag and pulled out his site pass. Handed it over without a word. The man took it, glanced at it, then up at Jamal again. "This real?" "Yeah," Jamal said, steady. "Stamped last Friday. I'm supposed to be here for the weekly walkthrough." Behind them, a forklift beeped, backing up. The hum of the site was starting to pick up. Hammering, shouting, someone yelling over a radio. The man handed the badge back without meeting Jamal's eye. "Wait here. I'll check with the foreman." Jamal nodded once. No reaction. No emotion. He knew what was coming. The man with the clipboard walked off toward the site trailer without another word. Jamal remained by the gate, hands loose at his sides, the blueprints still rolled tight under one arm. He didn't shift his weight or check his watch. Just stood still, quiet, while the sounds of the job site filled in the silence. Inside the fence, a group of workers paused near a stack of rebar. One of them, a younger guy in a hard hat with stickers all over it, nodded toward Jamal with a small smirk. "Probably lost," he muttered loud enough for his buddy to hear. "Yeah," the buddy said, not bothering to lower his voice. "Or someone's cousin trying to get a free tour." They laughed, brief, careless. Jamal heard it, of course. But he didn't respond, didn't even glance in their direction. The foreman came out of the trailer a minute later, wiping his hands on a rag, wearing the kind of frown that had more to do with habit than anger. He was broad-shouldered, white, about 50, and squinting already like he was sizing up a problem. "Morning," he said flatly, stepping up to the fence. "You're Carter?" "Jamal Carter, structural." The foreman gave a non-committal grunt, then glanced at the badge still in the other guy's hand. He barely looked at it. "You're not who I expected," he muttered. Jamal didn't blink. "I get that a lot." The foreman gave a tight nod. "Let's see what you know, then." He turned to the guy with the clipboard. "Get him a vest, and don't make a thing out of it." The man hesitated, then handed over a vest from a nearby hook. It was a little dusty, the kind they kept around for visitors or temps. Jamal took it without comment, slipped it on. The gate buzzed open. He stepped through. Nobody said welcome. The site stretched wide, half-poured concrete, scaffold frames rising like skeletons against the morning sky. Dust clung to the boots, to the knees, to everything. Jamal walked slowly, not because he was uncertain, but because he was reading everything. Support beams, tension cables, the placement of load-bearing columns. The foreman walked ahead of him, not saying much. Every few steps he'd glance back, like he still wasn't sure what to make of this quiet man with the calm face. "You done many walkthroughs?" he finally asked. "More than I can count," Jamal answered. A crew passed by pushing a cart of equipment. One of them nodded politely. Another just stared. The third one, an older guy, muttered to his coworker, not really bothering to lower his voice. "Probably here for a site audit. Guess we're all getting grilled today." Jamal kept walking. They reached the southwest quadrant. Steel beams crisscrossed overhead, ready for the next stage. The foreman stopped and gestured up. "We had a delay on the east lift," he said. "Crane rotation issues. You'll probably want to check the torque plates on the west anchors, too." They looked off. Jamal nodded once. "Torque plates on section C7?" he asked. The foreman paused. "Yeah. How'd you know that?" "I designed them." The foreman blinked. "You mean?" Jamal turned toward the structure, stepping under the beams. Every support joint on this build was modeled in my office. Every bolt, every stress point. Silence settled between them. The foreman didn't speak again. Not for a while. Word moved faster than it should have. By the time Jamal reached the second quadrant, clipboard in hand now making quiet notes, a few heads were turning. The same crew that had joked earlier now watched him with a little more caution. Not fear. Just adjustment. The young guy with the stickered hard hat whispered to someone, then quickly busied himself with tying steel. His friend didn't laugh this time. Jamal stopped near a concrete pour station. The pump operator looked up, wiped sweat from his brow. "You with site management?" he asked. "No," Jamal said. "I'm above them." The man raised an eyebrow but didn't press, just nodded once and went back to his task. The foreman finally caught up again, his voice lower now. "Didn't realize this was your design. We get plans through admin, don't usually meet the engineer." "You have now," Jamal said. "And I'm not here to catch mistakes. I'm here to make sure the structure holds." Behind them, the site radio crackled with a call for more rebar delivery. Someone barked orders. The usual noise. But under it, a different hum had started, small shifts in posture, in tone, in how long people held eye contact. Jamal felt it. The slow click of perception adjusting. Not enough yet, but starting. He kept walking. Didn't slow down. Didn't smile. Jamal stood beneath the north scaffolding, glancing up at a joint that didn't sit quite right. He scribbled a note, then circled a number on the blueprint. Behind him, footsteps. He didn't turn. "You really designed all this?" The voice was cautious, young, curious, not skeptical. Jamal turned slightly. It was the guy with the stickered hard hat, standing a few feet away, hands in his vest pockets. "Yes," Jamal said. "I've been working on this structure for 18 months. Every revision, every stress calculation, every change order." The worker gave a slow nod. "No offense, man. Just we weren't told who the lead was. And when you walked up, I didn't look like who you expected," Jamal finished. The kid hesitated. "Yeah." Jamal nodded once. "I know." There was no heat in his voice, just the plainness of fact. Another voice cut in. Older, gruffer. "Kid, get back to tying. He doesn't need your interview." It was the same man who'd muttered earlier, still watching. Jamal didn't look at him. "Let him ask," he said. The older man blinked, caught off guard, then grunted and turned away. The kid stayed. "What made you want to do this kind of work?" Jamal took a breath. "Because it's permanent," he said simply. "You design a structure right, it stands for decades. Maybe longer." He didn't add the rest. "That buildings don't ask who you are. They just stand." The kid nodded again. "That's cool, man." Then he went back to tying steel, and Jamal returned to his notes. But the silence between them wasn't the same anymore. By mid-morning, the heat had crept in. Dust clung to everything. Clothes, boots, the back of Jamal's neck. He wiped it away with the edge of his sleeve and kept walking the perimeter. The clipboard was half full now. Not with criticisms, just observations, adjustments, things to check. Then he heard it. Two men talking behind a stack of sheetrock. Not shouting. Not meant to be heard. But clear enough. Guy walks in off the street and suddenly he's in charge? Yeah. I don't buy it. You see how he dresses? Looks like a tech from IT. Not someone who signs off on rebar placement. Jamal paused. He could have kept walking. Could have let it pass. But he turned the corner and stood there, waiting until they noticed him. They both froze. The one on the left, older, stockier, shifted his stance. Defensive but still playing casual. Didn't mean anything by it. Just saying, there's protocols. There are, Jamal agreed. And you're looking at the one who helped write them. A beat of silence. He stepped forward, his voice calm. "I've reviewed the core tension specs. Section D's about 4 millimeters off. Not enough to panic, but enough to correct. You wouldn't catch it if you weren't looking." The men said nothing. Jamal handed one of them a marked-up copy of the blueprint. "Fix it before end of day. You've got the crew." Then he walked off. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. Behind him, one of the men exhaled. The other muttered, "Damn." Not angry. Just realizing. Jamal stood near the temporary stairwell, observing how the supports were braced. He jotted a note, then turned to find the foreman watching him from a few paces away. This time, no clipboard. Just hands on his hips and a look that had changed subtly but noticeably. "You always walk sites like this?" he asked. Jamal nodded. "Always. I don't like relying on reports alone. The foreman scratched the back of his neck. I'll admit, I didn't think much of you at first. I noticed, Jamal said, without malice. The foreman gave a small huff of a laugh. You handled that cleaner than most would've, especially with some of the guys muttering. Jamal shrugged. I'm not here for their approval. I'm here for the building. A pause. Then the foreman stepped closer. I got no excuse. Just, this isn't what I'm used to. Guy shows up in a hoodie, nobody tells me anything, and suddenly he's the one who knows more than half the team. Jamal met his eyes. That wasn't by accident. I came like this on purpose. The foreman looked confused. I needed to see how things really run when nobody thinks the boss is watching, Jamal said quietly. That landed. The foreman's expression shifted again. Less defensive now. You're serious about this job. I don't play at what I do. He nodded slowly. Well, neither do I. You'll get my respect. Jamal didn't thank him, just gave a quiet, almost imperceptible nod. Respect wasn't owed. It was earned. And now, at least here, it had started. Lunchtime came, but Jamal didn't head for the break area. He stayed near the southeast corner of the site, checking measurements along the column footings. Most of the crew had wandered off to the trailers or shaded spots with their lunch bags. He heard footsteps approach, deliberate, hesitant. He turned slightly. It was the older worker from earlier, the one who'd dismissed the kid for asking too many questions. His hard hat was tilted back, his weathered face squinting in the sun. He stood there for a second before speaking. Name's Marty, he said, rubbing his hand along the back of his neck. Jamal gave a small nod. Jamal. Marty didn't meet his eyes. I was out of line earlier. With the talking, Jamal didn't respond right away. Just waited. I've been in this game 30 years, Marty said. Seen a lot, but I haven't seen many yous. Not up top. Jamal let the words hang. Marty cleared his throat. Didn't mean to disrespect. Just didn't expect it. That's on me. Finally, Jamal spoke. I'm not here to make you comfortable, Marty. I'm here to make sure this building stands. Marty gave a single nod. Yeah, I get that. Jamal turned back to the foundation lines. We'll see if you do. He didn't say it with anger, just fact. Marty stood there for another moment, then walked off. Not angry, not embarrassed, just quieter than before. In the trailer, tucked behind a heavy door with a rusted handle, was the blueprint room. Metal shelves stacked with rolled plans, revision folders, permits in plastic sleeves. It was cramped, always a little too warm, and smelled faintly of toner and sweat. Jamal stood over the central table, unrolling a fresh set of prints. He spread them out methodically, smoothing the corners, flipping through stapled addendums. The door creaked open behind him. Alex, the assistant site manager, stepped in. Young, sharply dressed, eager. A clipboard in hand and a faint look of embarrassment on his face. Hey, Mr. Carter, he began. Jamal didn't look up right away. Just Jamal, he said. Alex nodded quickly. Right. I wanted to apologize for this morning. I should have informed the crew you'd be arriving. Would have saved you some friction. Jamal turned a page, checking a measurement. Friction's not the problem, he said calmly. Exposure is. Alex looked confused. I needed to see who talks differently when they think they're in charge, Jamal clarified. Now I know. Alex shifted awkwardly. Well, I hope that doesn't reflect on everyone. Some of the guys, most, just weren't prepared. No one ever is, Jamal replied. He looked up at last. But that's how you find out who's real and who just follows the noise. Alex didn't argue. He just stood there, watching as Jamal pointed at a beam specification. This joint here, beam B12? Recheck the welding by end of day. The details too fine to leave to assumption. Alex scribbled a note. Got it. As he turned to leave, Jamal added, next time, don't apologize for discomfort. Apologize if they stay that way. Alex paused at the door, then nodded slowly. Understood. The afternoon heat pressed down harder now, drawing sweat even from the shaded areas of the site. Jamal moved through the framework deliberately, checking off notes, stopping occasionally to make adjustments or mark issues. Most of the crew kept working, but the air had shifted. They weren't ignoring him anymore. When Jamal approached, they stepped aside. When he stopped, they paused. He didn't demand attention, but it followed him now, not out of fear, but recognition. At one station, a pair of welders looked up from their work. One of them, a quiet woman with a bandana under her helmet, gave a small nod. Not big. Just enough to say, I see you. He returned it. Farther down, the kid with the stickered hard hat stood with a level in his hand, eyeing a beam. When Jamal walked past, he straightened up. Hey, the kid said. That torque plate, we fixed it. Like you said. Jamal paused. Clean job. Clean and within tolerance, the kid replied with a hint of pride. Jamal nodded. Good. The kid hesitated. Wasn't expecting to learn much today. But I did. Keep doing that, Jamal said. He kept walking, but the moment stayed with the kid. Back at the stairwell, Marty watched him again from a scaffold above. No comments this time. No jokes. Just a long, silent look, like he was watching something shift and wasn't sure what to do about it. Jamal didn't speak. He didn't need to. The echo of his presence was doing the work. Back in the site trailer, Jamal sat at the narrow desk where the lead architects usually checked in once a week. Blueprints were stacked beside him, a digital tablet glowing with 3D models. He scrolled through load diagrams, cross-referencing with notes from earlier that day. Then his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. It was the firm's regional director. He answered quietly. Carter. Jamal. The voice on the other end said, chipper but slightly concerned. Got word from the site foreman. Said you came in without the usual heads-up. Everything all right? Jamal leaned back in the creaky chair. Better than it would have been if I'd come in wearing a blazer and name tag. A pause. Then a sigh. Walk me through it. Jamal did. Not every detail, just enough. The assumptions, the comments, the shift in tone once titles came into play. He didn't dramatize it. He didn't have to. The voice on the line grew more serious. Do we need to intervene? No, Jamal said calmly. They're starting to understand. Another pause. You sure? I'm not here for revenge, Jamal said. I'm here to make sure that building stands, and that the people building it know who they're standing beside. Understood. Jamal hung up and placed the phone down carefully. Then, without a word, he reached for his pen and circled one last column spec that needed correction. He never once looked up, but he knew someone had been listening from the hallway outside. The door creaked quietly as it eased shut. Late afternoon cast long shadows across the site. Work was slowing, the day's end approaching. But inside the main trailer, Jamal had asked for a quick meeting, nothing formal. Just the crew leads, foreman, and a few key workers. They filled the room slowly, a few at a time. Some looked unsure, others curious. No one quite knew what to expect. Jamal stood at the head of the small conference table. No slideshow, no speech. He waited until the door clicked shut, then spoke. I've walked this site all day, he said simply. And I've seen the work, the strong. But strong work needs strong thinking behind it. No one moved. He continued. I wasn't here to catch mistakes. I was here to see how people get treated when they don't walk in the way you expect. A few glances exchanged. The silence tightened. I came in looking like a guy who didn't belong. And for some of you, that was enough. The foreman lowered his gaze slightly. Marty looked at the floor. I'm not here to embarrass anyone, Jamal said. But I need you to understand what you say, how you look at someone, how quickly you judge them. It matters. Carries. He looked around the room, eyes steady. If I hadn't been the lead engineer, if I had just been a visitor or someone trying to learn, would I have left here respected? Or dismissed? No one answered. You're building more than concrete and steel out there, he said quietly. You're building trust, and that starts with how you treat the person standing next to you. Then he stepped back. That's all I needed to say. No applause, no nods, just the sound of thoughts settling, and the quiet understanding that something had just shifted. The meeting ended without fanfare. One by one, the crew filed out, quiet, thoughtful. Some kept their eyes low. Others glanced at Jamal briefly, then away, like unsure how to hold the weight of what had been said. Outside, the sky had turned a soft orange. The hum of the site was fading, power tools silenced, forklifts parked. The end of the day was near. Jamal stayed behind, collecting his notes, rolling up his blueprints. The foreman lingered in the doorway. Didn't expect that, he said after a moment. I didn't come for a speech, Jamal replied. I just needed them to think. The foreman nodded slowly. Some of them will. Not all. Doesn't need to be all, Jamal said. Just enough to shift the tone. There was a pause. You going to come back? The foreman asked. Jamal looked up. That a request? The foreman gave the faintest smile. It's a start. Jamal nodded once, then stepped past him into the fading light. As he walked across the site, he passed a few workers still wrapping up. The young guy with the stickered hard hat gave a small wave. Jamal returned it without breaking stride. No handshakes, no forced thanks. Just silence and something quieter than approval. Respect. Jamal sat in his car for a few minutes before turning the key. The lot was mostly empty now. Just a few trucks and scattered tools left behind for the morning crew. The day's grit clung to his sleeves, his collar, the creases in his hands. He didn't wipe it off. He glanced at the rolled blueprints beside him, then at the site. Steel skeletons cast long shadows on the dirt. Still incomplete, still raw, but forming. In the rearview mirror, he could just make out Marty stepping down from the scaffold, moving slower than earlier. No swagger, no words, just motion. Jamal turned back to the wheel. This wasn't new to him. The doubt, the quiet judgment, the way eyes skimmed past until a title forced them to stop. But that had never been the goal. Authority wasn't the point. Presence was. He thought about the kid who asked questions, the woman who nodded, the pause in the foreman's voice when he said respect. Small things, but real. Jamal didn't need headlines, didn't need apologies written in HR emails. What mattered was what stayed behind after he left. He started the engine. The old Camry hummed, steady and unremarkable, and he drove off without a word. The next morning, the site buzzed as usual, machinery roaring, workers shouting over the din, radios crackling. But something had shifted. Jamal wasn't there, yet his presence lingered. The torque plates were double-checked before pouring. The welders re-inspected their seams without being told. The guy with the stickered hard hat took notes between tasks, asking questions he hadn't bothered with before. In the break area, Marty passed by the young kid and paused. "You ever look into structural engineering?" he asked quietly. The kid shrugged. "Thought about it." Marty nodded once. "You should." Near the trailer, Alex stood with the foreman reviewing schedules. He glanced at the stairs Jamal had corrected the day before and shook his head lightly. "Guy sees everything," he muttered. The foreman didn't argue, just looked out across the site, lips pressed into a thin line. "Yeah," he said. "He does." Later that week, a small framed print appeared in the blueprint room. Not flashy, just a quiet black and white photo of the site's first foundation pour. Below it, a line in clean font. "The strongest part of any structure is the part no one sees." No name, no plaque, but those who'd been there knew who left it. And from that day forward, whenever someone stepped onto that site and saw it hanging there, something quiet settled in their chest. Not guilt, not shame, just the knowledge that someone had come through, been underestimated, and built something that would outlast all of them.